Okay, welcome back everyone. So this is the close down session to what hopefully you'll agree was a really fantastic 2 days. Elizabeth, as CEO of WES, has come in, and we're just going to sort of share our thoughts around what we thought were our takeaways, and it'd be really lovely to see what you guys will be taking away from the conference. So if you pop your takeaways in the chat, it'd be really great to share those with everyone. So, Elizabeth, do you want to go first? What have been your reflections on the 2 days?
Well, it's been incredible, and I wish I'd been able to go in all of the rooms rather than just the main stage, because we've had some brilliant speakers. And I love how we've had these wonderful young women in engineering who've given their life lessons, and I hope that will help younger women coming into engineering to feel that, you know, they're not alone, that these women have gone before them and these are the tips that they've got. I certainly wish I'd had some of this advice when I was younger. It's much deserved. I love Chi. I thought her explanation about how she got into engineering and some of the challenges she had, and then how she went into Parliament and thought she'd abandoned engineering, but discovered it's more relevant than ever. And it's a shame that we've only got one chartered engineer in Parliament. We do need more. And then some of the advice, so from Helena, talking about how to do a PhD, and I learned some things there as well about the academic world, and the mentoring from Emisi. I mean, it's just been really superb, and I've really enjoyed it. And I hope you have too, Susan. What's your
take? Definitely. Yeah, I mean, the themes that I've kind of heard, I mean, obviously the speakers have been fantastic, really high quality, great advice. Some of the themes that I've seen coming through from the questions have been around confidence, and obviously some very practical, clear questions that the speakers have asked. And I think, you know, if I was kind of to share one thing, you know, not being an engineer, but working in engineering, was to say to people, you know, we're really desperate for people to come and work in engineering, and one of the risks we quite often talk about is the skills shortage. So you know, if you feel confident in anything, please do feel confident that your skills and capabilities as engineers are very much sought after. And you know, that was my takeaway coming from the other side. I sort of was like, we want you, so please feel confident that you're needed to solve the bigger societal issues of our time. So I definitely reiterate that. And also sort of hearing people's nervousness around going into situations that are unfamiliar, where they don't know everything, and where other people obviously know more. And just, you know, a lot of the speakers spoke about how they have kind of reconciled themselves with the fact that, you know, you come in, you're new, you're bringing difference, and knowing what superpower your difference brings. I think, rather than you're never going to know everything. So trying to aspire to that, you know, is always going to make you feel underconfident. So trying to flip your focus into, actually, I'm different, what am I bringing as a new person? Because sometimes those questions, you know, as a non-engineer, sometimes I ask the naive questions, the uneducated questions, that actually are the ones that really tease out the underlying problems that people who are in the detail have almost forgotten to ask, I think.
I agree, and that came across as well in some of the participants were saying, you know, there is no such thing as a stupid question. And in fact, the only time, because I've taken this advice to heart for such a long time, but the only time I literally said, this may sound like a stupid question, because I didn't know the answer, was when I was on the board of the East Midlands Regional Development Agency, and we were being closed down by the government in 2010, and we were discussing the close down and everything. And I just had noticed in the news that day that the Act of Parliament to close down the agencies hadn't been passed. And I said, this may sound like a stupid question, and you know I don't ever preface my questions like this, but are we legally allowed to be closed down because the Act of Parliament hasn't gone through? And what happened was the most amazing 45-minute discussion about oh my God, are we? And so we ended up, because nobody knew. So it wasn't a stupid question. So that's
No.
never ever used it again. And in fact, what happened was at the end of that, the chief executive and the chair both said, we need to know. And so one of them wrote to the Secretary of State and one of them wrote to the most senior civil servant. And we then got a note from the minister and the senior civil servant to say, yes, we were permitted to close down. So that's the thing, is that, you know, sometimes everybody wants to know the answer and they're just scared to ask.
That's it.
Sometimes you're asking a question that nobody's thought of, but can be incredibly significant.
That's it. Yeah, never open with "this is a stupid question."
Yeah, I learned that. But the comments are brilliant here. And what you said about confidence. So Kate Wardle has said that we are not alone in feeling like imposters or uncertain about what we're doing. It makes me more determined to work on my confidence. I just think that's incredibly important.
Yeah. No, they're great, the comments. And Janet said we need more women in engineering, and I think, you know, extrapolating that, I think we need, you know, one of the questions I'd hoped to ask you was, you know, do we think it's a problem that we've only got one chartered engineer in Parliament?
Definitely, yes, because the problem with the problem with Parliament is that it's not full of ordinary people. So I'm a systems thinker, systems engineer, and one of the things we're taught is Ashby's law of requisite variety, which basically says that any system or any organisation must have as much variety inside it as the environment that it serves. So you need to have people in Parliament who are reflective of the UK population. So that means people from all over the country, people from various different backgrounds, different ages, men, women, and of course engineers. And because we have a lack of science and engineering, you then get the most crazy things happening because they don't understand. So you've got the whole thing that's happened with the vaccinations and understanding COVID. I mean, I know they've been advised by SAGE, but if you have more MPs who have that kind of expertise, then they could be saying we need to do more to support the population.
I think the other thing, you know, to your point, a lot of people mentioning confidence in their kind of takeaways. I mean, if you're a student and you're doing a conference, can I just say you're way ahead of a lot of people. There's no way as a student I would have even thought to have done this. So the fact that you're thinking about this, you're already networking as students or early career people is just amazing. And I think, you know, doing more of that sort of thing will only open up opportunities and give you access to the sort of advice you're looking for. So, you know, you're already, I would say, streets ahead of a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. And also the professional engineering institutions, we heard from the IET, but there are about 40 of them. And I belong to two, the Royal Aeronautical Society and the International Council of Systems Engineers, who are going to become the Institute of Systems Engineers very shortly. They also run conferences. Sometimes they run particular student conferences as well. And it's really a good idea to go along and see what they've got to say, because they're desperate for young people to start joining their councils and their committees in order to influence them. And I remember a couple of years ago, somebody said, well, it's not fair that we run a women's conference and that men can't come. And I said, well, for a start, we'd be delighted if male students of engineering want to come, because they'll see more about how brilliant women engineers are. So we don't stop any men from coming. But secondly, as I've just said, you know, they can go to the PEI conferences as well, and they would welcome people, young people, because they really do need that fresh blood in there as well. I also
Missy and I was just going to say, Missy and Helena both spoke about the value of getting involved and the experience they got from being on those boards, that they can then take forward into their professional lives, or have taken forward into their professional lives. So, you know, it's a win-win. To use this sort of cliche phrase, I think everyone gets something out of that, don't they?
Absolutely, and there's so much variety in them. So you can join a big general institution like the IET, or you can join something a bit more specific. And you know, they really have got a great deal of resources. And Fiona says in the comments, Fiona Weigel, I think, it was apologies if I've pronounced your name wrongly. It was great to hear how many companies are striving to be more sustainable and are aiming to come up with solutions for tackling climate change. And I think that ties in with your comment, Susan, that we are here to solve the biggest societal issues. It's, people think about famine or earthquakes, and it's not just the people immediately on the spot who help to put up tents and feed people. It's also how do we recover from these disasters, and it's engineers who are going in and repairing, but also saying how do we future-proof this community so that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, and I think interesting. I think Chi was talking about COP and the presence of businesses there, and at work we were talking about how Tesco, of a company that perhaps previously had been very cutthroat, was about value, really now is at the forefront of certainly its communications, talking about sustainability and climate change. So it's on everyone's agenda. It's not a nice to have anymore. It's very definitely a must. And one of the inflection points for that is making renewables economically viable. And again, to your point, that's engineers have been at the heart of that, I think. So
absolutely. Lorna Bennett, who won the West Prize from the IET Young Woman Engineer of the Year event a few years ago, she works with wind turbines. And one of the most important things that was in the development of wind turbines in the UK was the UK government saying you have to produce wind turbines that do not cost more than £100 per kilogram of energy, or kilowatt hour, I believe. So that meant that they had to become more efficient in how they made the turbines, and so they've got longer blades. I mean, some of them are really, really tall. And I think that's amazing that if you've got this incentive from government, then taking into account the manufacture of the turbines as well as the electricity they produce and the cost of servicing them to now be so cheap is partly why we have such fantastic sustainability in the UK in our energy sector.
So we've got not very long left, Elizabeth. I'm just wondering whether we should now start to think about thanking people. I personally would like to thank all the amazing speakers, many of whom have come from our fantastic sponsors. I think Elizabeth is hopefully putting up a screen with our sponsors on. I'll read them out while we might be doing that. So thank you so much to BAE Systems, All Corporation, CBRE, City Fibre, Dialogue Semiconductors, McLaren Racing, and SME Graduate Employment. Thank you so much, and thank you to the speakers who came from those companies and the other speakers, because it really has been a high quality conference from that point of view. Obviously, thank you to Wes and Sarah behind the scenes. I'm sure, do you want to do this, Elizabeth? Because I know you've
yes,
I'll hand over to you.
Thank you. I really do want to thank Sarah Yates, who is our events coordinator, who is going to move into a different, more strategic role with Wes, and we're going to be employing a new events coordinator because Sarah's got lots of other things going on. She's been absolutely fantastic. She's really learned how to use this platform, which I think now that we're a bit more used to it is actually quite exciting. So many thanks to Sarah, not just for this event, but for all the other events that she has put on for us over the last couple of years. And I'd also want to say thank you to a couple of my team, Tristan Holland, our membership manager, and Anna Pluck, who is my PA, who have been very brilliantly coordinating the rooms and the breakout sessions. And I'm really pleased to say that they've been fantastic at doing that as well. And as Janet Botha has said in the comments, thank you, Susan. You have been an amazing host. And indeed you have. You've chaired it brilliantly. You've really kept to time, which I think has been a bit challenging at times.
I've had to.
Yeah, we had to. And it's been lovely as well, because you're not an engineer, to hear your questions, because you ask the most amazing questions of our engineers that I think that's a really good question. I wish I'd asked it. And so thank you very much for your host.
Oh, you're welcome. It's always a pleasure, Elizabeth.
And Sarah has said thanks. With events are always so inspiring to work on, and I too love hearing from all the amazing speakers. And thank you, Susan. And I'm just really delighted. There's a comment from Gaynor Baldwin who says she's a long-serving HR person. I think you're all amazing for wanting to follow your dreams. I'm sure that there are people involved in this conference that will be positively influencing the engineering heritage of our world in the future. And absolutely, I agree. I think that is amazing that we've got people on this call who are going to be blazing a trail for engineering in the next 50 years. And believe you me, we're going to need it, because certainly some of the worst effects of climate change we hope we can mitigate. But, I'm in my mid-50s. By the time the serious consequences of it are in action, I'm going to be too old, or even gone. And this is the generation that are going to have to deal with it. So thank you all in advance for the great work that you're going to be doing. And do apply for jobs. If you're interested, we have a jobs website on the WES website. We have a partnership page on the WES website that talks about our partners. And these are all companies that pay to join us so that they can learn more about diversity. And that means they're committed to diversity and hiring more women. And also, if you're not a member of WES, you can join as a student or apprentice member for £15. And if you are not a student or an apprentice, you can join as a full member of WES if you're an engineer for £60, or an associate member of WES if you're a man, or if you are a woman who is working in HR or project management and is not an engineer. We'd be delighted to have you. And where are the recordings to the videos today and slides? They will be provided afterwards by wonderful Sarah. She will let you know where the links are. And we will also be putting some of them onto our YouTube channel in due course.
Great. I think
So
that's it.
Yeah, it is. I think it just remains to say thank you very much, Susan. Thank you, everyone, for attending. We really appreciate you participating, and I hope you've had a really, really great time, and have a wonderful rest of the day and a great weekend too.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Susan.
Bye.
Bye.